Welcome to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. If this information interests you, please press the like and subscribe button and press the bell for notifications. Now, I've had many Maitreya experiences over the years, but the one thing that blew my mind the other day when I was thinking about it was there was this experience that I had, and if you want to hear more about it, feel free to go to my Maitreya experience playlist that I have. It's recorded in there. But I saw Maitreya at this peace rally in Marietta, and there was a lot of things that he said there. But the one thing that he said one thing to me that really kind of stuck out, and I've chewed on it a lot over the years. If I think about all the stuff that he's said to me over the years, that's probably the one thing that I would say I probably thought about the most, really. And the reason why it blew my mind is because I've thought about it in different ways, from when I first heard it to, kind of over the years to, the way I started thinking about it the other day. And what happened was, as I was walking back to my car, he was sitting at this table outside this pub, and we were kind of alone on this block, this kind of like it's not an alleyway, but it was kind of a side street, and there wasn't anybody really in the street around within earshot that I could see. And he kind of stands up, and I recognized him, obviously, and I thought he was Maitreya at the peace rally, so I see him again, and I'm thinking he's Maitreya the whole time. And so he stands up, and he starts talking to me, and he goes, one of the things he said, which I think is kind of cool, is he goes, you're going to see me on TV real soon, and we're going to change the world together. That was one thing he said. And then he started talking about a bunch of stuff, and then he interrupted himself rather abruptly. And he looks at me, and he goes, I never judge anyone on whether they're good or bad. I only notice the good things that they do. And then he went right back into talking about something else. And at that moment, and for years, actually, I always kind of interpreted what he said was in direct relation to what I had said to the hand of Maitreya. I have a picture of Maitreya's hand, and you can go on Share International's website and look at it. But according to Benjamin Creme, when you look at that hand, it creates a mind-to-mind contact between you and Maitreya. So he can it helps him to kind of focus in on what you're thinking. So I was at a low point in my life, and I remember saying something to that hand. And when he said that to me, it was like in direct response to what I had said to the hand. And it's kind of along the lines of this, is if you find yourself being very critical of yourself, right? And let's say you're a Christian, right? You might think that Jesus is critical of you, right? Or if you're critical of other people, right? For instance, you might think that Jesus is critical of them too, right? You're going to go to hell for that one. Jesus is going to judge you. Whatever you're thinking along those lines, right? Now, a little side note, but a very important point is I found in my own life, criticism does not bring any joy to me or anybody around me. In fact, it's the exact opposite. So it's like the people who are hypercritical that I see, and I'm sure I'm like this when I'm hypercritical, I'm painful to be around, right? And I'm sure, just like other people who are really, really critical, it's like I don't even want to be around them. It's like, ugh, you know what I mean? So it has the exact opposite effect that I want, right? Which is I want people to like me, for instance, right? So when I'm critical of other people, it's not having that effect. It's not like people love me more because I'm critical, right? So if you find yourself being critical, take a look at yourself and see, right? So the other thing it kind of did is I started kind of thinking about Christianity as a whole, right? So I started thinking, well, people think that Christ is this judge coming back at the end of the world to judge the wicked and reward the faithful, right? Well, I believe Maitreya is the Christ. So that was his way of also saying that he's not coming back at the end of the world to judge anyone. In fact, even in one of Benjamin Creme's books, he talked about Maitreya's attitude toward Saddam Hussein. And he said that Maitreya said Saddam Hussein is a generous man with a kind heart, I think is what he said. Now, it doesn't mean that Maitreya is totally blind to all our humanity. It just means he knows who and what we are as souls, right? Now, what blew my mind the other day that really got me thinking more about this is, and I'm going to talk about myself for a second because to prove the point, right? Back when I was a child, I was real young. I remember my mom was reading to me one night, And she would happen to be reading the Bible, I think. And she's about to close the Bible up, and she's about to turn the light off to, put me to sleep, right? And I remember saying to her, I looked at her and I said, Mom, one day I'm going to love the way that Christ loves. And I remember her saying, no, honey, you can never love the way he loves. There's only one Christ, and that's the way he loves, and blah, 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 blah. And I wasn't trying to one-up Jesus, right? But I remember respectfully disagreeing with my mother at the time. And I said, no, I think one day I will. And I wasn't really talking about me per se only, right? I've always in my life viewed that the love of Jesus is the highest that anyone could ever love. And that's also the highest form of humanity that we could possibly imagine, right? Is that type of unconditional love that he demonstrated, right? So that's really what I was talking about. Now, what blew my mind about what Maitreya said to me a number of years ago that I started thinking about is, I think what he said to me is actually the key to starting to learn how to love unconditionally like these masters. And so I started trying over the past few weeks, trying not to judge people on whether they're good or bad or be critical, but just to notice at least one good thing that they did, right? And it's changed my perspective on people, especially my coworkers, the ones that really just got under my skin. It's like I started actually defending them to other people. The same people that I was actually kind of critical about. I was like, they're not so bad. They did such and such. It's not that bad. Right? And it changed, I don't know, it changed my whole rapport with them. Like I said, because if you're critical and you're critical as that's your modus operandi, you're probably not people probably aren't happy to be around you. They might still hang around you for whatever. Maybe they have a morbid sense of curiosity about what you're going to say, or maybe they're masochists themselves. I don't know. But I just, it doesn't bring you any joy. But I did notice that when I started looking at the good things that people were doing for me, even if it was just one thing, right? It brought more joy to my life. And so I started really looking at it, and I was like, man, I never thought about it, what Maitreya said to me from that perspective, right? So I really kind of taken it on, and that's why I'm sharing it with everybody. Hopefully that, maybe one person out there will go, it will spark some inspiration in them to do the same thing, I guess. Because, Maitreya even said that within his heart, anytime you or anybody else in the world demonstrates any amount of love, he feels it in his own heart. Anytime you suffer or anyone else in the world is suffering, he feels that in his heart at the same time. So all the suffering in the world, but also all the joy, happiness, and love in the world, he feels simultaneously in his heart. So that's what all these masters are experiencing moment to moment, right? But maybe, just maybe, it started with, don't judge anyone on whether they're good or bad. Only notice the good things that they do. Hope it helps. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.